Welcome to The American Dream with Viktoria Bloomberg, Bloomrich Law Firm.
Hello and welcome to The American Dream with Viktoria Bloomberg of Bloomrich Law Firm. Viktoria is experienced in immigration law and with assisting individuals and businesses with immigration to the U.S. She provides a comprehensive range of immigration services, including helping clients with U.S. visas, green cards, and other immigration-related matters. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today's episode is introducing the change of status from B1, B2 to F1. Viktoria, thanks for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate that, Kevin.
All right, so I said all these things, change of status, B1, B2, F1. All right, I'm confused. Can you introduce to the listeners the change of status from B1, B2 to F1 DIY guide that you wrote? That's a mouthful.
Sure, Kevin, sure. Well, let's start from the definition. So B1, B2 status, it refers to the tourist status that usually people come to the United States when they come first time. They want to see, explore the country. They travel around the country. So they usually have to obtain B1, B2 visa in order to come to the United States. Now, sometimes it happens that they come to the United States and they change their mind and they want to study in the United States. They want to obtain an education. They want to become better in what they do in their fields. So then they want to go to the university or maybe go to the language school and learn English language. So in that case, they will need to change their status from B1, B2, from tourist status to student status, F1 status. So in order to do that, they will need to complete a filing with Immigration Service. And once approved, they will be able to start studying. Now, our guide that we created, it's actually a unique resource for people who want to change their status on their own without going to an attorney. And that guide helps people do that on their own. So it includes all the application forms, all the fees, everything that you need to know about the application process. And sometimes the application process can be really hard. So this guide saves countless hours and money and allows people to change their status in the United States on their own. Because again, on tourist visa, on tourist status, you are not allowed to study in the U.S. university.
Okay. What does the process of changing status from B1, B2 to F1 typically involve? And why do you think it's really important for people to understand the steps before they even get the ball rolling on them?
Well, first thing that is important is to understand once you break the law, especially immigration law in the United States, the consequences of that could be really devastating. So for people to start thinking about changing their status, but not having a full picture of how is it going to look like, that could be really bad, especially when the time is of essence. So when people come to the United States on B1, B2 status, they have a limited time to be in the United States, anywhere between 2 weeks to 6 months. So they need to file an application for change of status within that 6 month period, 6 or 2 weeks or whatever the timeline they have, depending on how long the officer granted that status. So the whole process looks like, first they need to go to the school, find the school that will accept their application. So once they have the school that accepted their application, they were accepted to the university, then they need to start their immigration process. Again, prior to the approval of the change of status to student status, students are not allowed to study at the university. So they have to just wait until the Immigration Service approve their application. And once approved, then they can start studying.
Okay. So your guide outlines completing the I-539 form. Can you walk us through what exactly that is and the main sections of it and what you feel applicants need to pay special attention to when filling it out?
Sure. That's a great question because the form itself looks pretty easy and some people are even able to fill it out online. But so the form includes first personal information. You have to fill out your name, last name, other names you have ever used, your passport information. Then it asks you about immigration history. How did you come to the United States? On what status? When does that status expire? There are also questions about whether you violated your status, meaning did you work without authorization, for example? Did you fall out of status, for example?
Yeah.
So those type of questions, you need to respond to those. But the form itself is not the hardest part. The hardest part is all other things that go into the application. I'll give you an example, a personal statement. And our guide has the examples and samples of the form itself and of the affidavits and statements. The personal statement has to outline why did you decide to change your status in the United States? Why don't you want to go back to the home country and apply for a visa application and get another, again, student visa. Why do you want to change the status in the US? Why is it important to you? So those types of details, our guide is very specific on what documents need to go into that application. And it's not only personal statement. I mean, financial documents are also important because you need to show that you're able to pay for your education in the United States, and you will not use public funds. You will not use public insurance, for example, that you will be able to pay for the private insurance. So those types of things are very important when you're filing the application.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other documents that are required to have a successful application?
Well, yeah. So first document, very important, is Form I-20. That's the document that is issued by the school. That document shows that the school accepted your application, that they will welcome you to study in their university.
Right, yeah.
Second document, you need to pay the service fees. Some students forget about it. Oh, I forgot something myself. The Form I-20, make sure that you sign it. Sometimes students forget to sign it. So make sure that the school signed it and you sign it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like forgetting to sign a check and well, wait, do people write checks? No, maybe not.
Yes. Actually, so for USCIS, you can, if you want to file in paper filing, you want to do the paper filing, you will have to include the check and forget to sign your check as well.
Don't forget to sign the check too. Good. All right, mental note, people.
Right. So the third document is the form itself, I-539, the personal statement, financial documents, bank account statements. If you're unable to pay for your education yourself, then, and if your parents, for example, are paying, you will need to show your parents' bank account statement. We suggest to also add the statement from the parent stating, yes, I'm aware that my son or daughter wants to study in the United States and we're able and capable and willing to pay for the education. So those are the most important documents that go with the application. But again, it all depends on your situation, and our guide outlines possible issues that you may experience in your individual environment and circumstances that you may need to include additional documents too.
Right. Yeah. It's not all inclusive. There are additional things that you may need in certain situations.
Correct.
Understood. Yeah. So you emphasize the importance of maintaining lawful status when applying. Can you explain what exactly it means to maintain lawful status and why that is critical when changing from the B1, B2 to F1?
Absolutely. So the immigration looks at the way you maintain your status as the way to show that you will comply with all the immigration requirements. I'll give you an example. For example, when you come to the United States and the visa officer, the CBP officer at the border puts a stamp in your passport and issues so-called Form I-94, he gives you the time that you can remain in the United States. So regardless of how many years your visa is issued for example, the visa can be issued for 3 years, 4 years. But when you come to the United States, the officer has a right to give you 2 weeks stay in the United States, 3 months or 6 months. So now if the officer issued you 3 months, but you overstayed, you violated the terms of your stay, which means that immigration service will not be able to change your status because you're already out of status. So in order to change the status, you need to be in status to file for change of another status. And again, you have to prove that you're a law-abiding immigrant to show that you will comply with F-1 status and you will not, for example, work in the United States illegally. So immigration service will look into those things like, again, maintaining your status, not violating it, not working without authorization, and not getting a DUI, for example, not having a criminal record while you're in the United States. So that shows immigration service that you will be a good example, a good candidate for a F-1 student visa.
Yeah, I imagine most of the time it's just people just kind of unintentionally fall out of status, right? They just kind of like is it kind of just an oopsie?
That does happen. And if it was a brief period of time, USCIS does say that there are extraordinary circumstances when you can show that it wasn't your intent and that it wasn't your fault that it happened. And I'll give you an example. If, for example, you send your documents 2 days prior to expiration of your status, and somehow FedEx or USPS, and you send it, I mean, you have to make sure that you send it with a quick notice, basically that it will arrive within 1 day or 2 days, and that you have a tracking number. Yeah. So if you did all that and then FedEx failed to deliver on time, then USCIS may close their eyes on that and say, okay, well, it wasn't your mistake. But again, we will have to file an affidavit saying that it wasn't your mistake, that you did everything possible to maintain your status, and that it wasn't your fault. So the most important part is that it shouldn't be your fault. If it's an attorney's mistake, you can also blame your attorney. That's also a good thing.
Never.
Actually, sometimes I do tell my clients, hey, if something, blame it on me. Say that it was already. I do. Yeah, I do.
Well, that's very nice of you to be thrown under the bus that way.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. I like it. So in the situation where someone unintentionally falls out of status, are there other routes they should consider, or do they just go ahead and still apply for a change of status?
So if it was their mistake and if they did fall out of status because they forgot about the expiration, etc., they will have to start considering other routes. So the first thing I do advise my clients is to leave the country prior to 180 days expiration time. So basically, okay, so if you were given 6 months and then you overstayed for 2 weeks, I tell my clients, hey, it's better to leave. Do not overstay another 180 days because that may lead to the ban at the entry to the country. So basically, you will be banned from entering the country for 3 years or for 10 years. So do not overstay. Usually that's my advice. Sometimes, though, there are good candidates for visas such as EB-1 visa, those are extraordinary ability visa. And sometimes I do say, hey, well, you're a good candidate for that. There is a risk, but if we move quickly, then you may be able to actually get a green card. We can adjust your status, etc. But again, that is a very extraordinary circumstance. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen sometimes. I do not recommend doing that. I recommend consulting an attorney. Do not do that on your own. But for F-1 status, probably, yes, you will not be able to file for change of status to F-1 if you're out of status. So again, important to maintain your status to make sure that you deal with that prior to the end of the expiration of your Form I-94, expiration of your status.
Okay. And you mentioned talking to an immigration attorney. Your guide is great because it allows applicants and helps them change their status independently. But you still, I would guess, kind of recommend consulting an immigration attorney. Can you kind of walk us through why professional guidance is so important? That's
a great question. So our guide allows people to do that themselves. And it's very good and very comprehensive, very detailed. But even in our guide, it says, if at any point you feel that you're uncomfortable, you're not sure what to do, you have questions, it is better to consult an attorney. Because at this point, you have limited time. So it is better to ask a question, to even have a consultation, just a consultation. Don't hire an attorney full time just for the whole application. Just hire for a consultation. Ask the questions you have, just in case. This guide is also good, even if you do have an attorney, just to have a second type of look at what it's supposed to be and what is the attorney telling you. I'm not saying that attorneys are bad or someone can miss something, but sometimes it's just good to have a second reference where you can take a look and see, okay, this is what my attorney tells. Oh, yes, that's correct. This is an example of what attorney wants from me. So the guide is also good, even if you do have an attorney.
Yeah, it's a super complicated process, right? So, I mean, like, it's not something, if you have questions or you're unsure of something, it's not something you want to guess at.
That's right. That's true. And also, again, if we're talking about the consequences of the bad application, then yes, for sure, I would say that just if you're not comfortable, even if you have examples, you have samples, you have a well-written statements there and everything, still, if you're not comfortable, better have an attorney.
Yeah. Better safe than sorry, for sure.
Correct.
How long does the process typically take, and what influences the timing of change of status requests?
Good question. There are different types of applications. You can basically expedite the application. So usually it takes about anywhere between 6 months to 12 months to change the status. It all depends on how comprehensive your application is. For example, sometimes, again, people may forget to sign the Form I-20, and then USCIS Immigration Service will request additional documents. So if everything is right, if the documents, the package is good, then it may take anywhere between 6 months to 12 months. If something is wrong, then it may take longer. But again, there are options. So there is an option to expedite the process, request the Immigration Service to review the application faster. And that service costs extra. So the Immigration Service will take, I believe, $1,865. Do not quote me on that. Check before filing. I'll explain why. Immigration Service changes their filing fees almost every year. So it is important to check every year the filing fees prior to submitting the application. So you can request to expedite the application. If you do request that, the Immigration Service will review your application in 30 days, which will allow you to receive a response faster. The last time we filed the application, it was approved in 20 hours. I was amazed at how fast it was approved.
That's fast. Wow.
It is. It is. I was amazed. Yes. We received notice from Immigration Service that they received an application, and 20 hours later, next day, we received a notice that it was approved. So that was the fastest we have had with Immigration Service. Again, if your application wasn't approved that fast, don't be upset and don't knock on your lawyer's door. It's not your lawyer's fault. It's just the way sometimes things work out.
Just timing, right? Timing is everything. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So one last question. If someone's listening and maybe they're unsure whether they should proceed with the DIY approach or seek professional help, or they're just not quite sure exactly what to do next, what is your advice to them?
My advice would be start with the do-it-yourself guide, see what it's like, see the whole process, see the possible risks, if you're okay with the risks, see if you understand what the guide asks you to do, the samples, the examples, we also have a vocabulary there to have, at least when you have to speak with a lawyer, if you will need to speak with a lawyer, you will know what the lawyer is talking about because you already read that. So my advice is to first get a guide, look at it, understand the process. And then when you will come to a lawyer, if you will need to come to a lawyer, then you will know what questions to ask and whether you actually will need a lawyer. I don't think you will, but
yeah, totally understand. And how can someone get their hands on the guide?
We can leave the link to this video, and then people will be able to click on the link and check out the guide and all the information that's on our website.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to The American Dream with Viktoria Bloomberg of Bloomrich Law Firm. To connect with Viktoria, head to bloomrich.com, and please like and subscribe and review to our channel. We really enjoy building a community here to help people understand how this all works. Viktoria, thank you so much for your time here. It's very helpful and very insightful.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.